few moments, but before we begin, here are a few reminders. For the comfort and safety of those around you, remain seated during the presentation, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the theater. Please supervise your children. Looking are permitted, but we do ask that you deposit your trash in the bins provided at the end of the theater. And in courtesy to our presenters and everyone else in the theater, refrain from flash photography and turn off or silence your cell phones. Also, we ask that there be no texting during the presentation. The texting lamp is on. And now, Stage 28 and Walt Disney Imagineering are pleased to present Mayhem, Mischief, and Monkeys, The Making of Mystic Manor. Please welcome Imagineering.
Hong Kong Disneyland is a jewel here in China. It is the most beautiful of our Magic Kingdom parks.
It's got this amazing setting right on the South China Sea, but also has this backdrop of these beautiful mountains behind the castle that you will not find anywhere else in any of our other parks. We're continuing to expand the Great Base Park that we opened with in 2005, and starting to bring new and exciting stories to our guests that have never been told before anywhere else.
When we were asked to do this expansion here in Hong Kong, we wanted to create something that had the same feeling of a haunted mansion, which was this grand illusion show that had supernatural elements, but put a different story around it. So I think for those Disney fans in the know, not only will they get the fact that we've taken the DNA from the Haunted Mansion, we've actually made some real physical nods to it and other Disney attractions.
We got to look back at our roots. What is all about the classic Disney dark ride experience, and we use that as kind of our hallmark, but then how do we take it to the 21st century?
Mystic Manor, to me, is just another step in the line of where we push the envelope.
We're really mixing the digital and the analog and then blending it all together that creates kind of this real-world experience. It's happening real time in front of you.
All bets are off when you're inventing characters and a whole new ride like Mystic, and I think that goes back to our traditions with Walt of having things that are strongly character branded and things that are kind of new.
Bringing Albert to life is a conglomeration of a lot of different disciplines.
He's cute and cuddly, but yes, he's also a little boy, and he's a little bit curious and a little bit mischievous, and so we wanted to express that into the guest, but in an adoring fashion so the guest would want to follow him.
I probably drew 50 different designs of Albert. At one time, we had a very realistic design of Albert. Being a father, having Dylan and Noah as kids really changed my view of the parks and helped me design these characters in a way that would be easier for the audience to accept.
We've created characters and we've created a situation that guests are going to relate to and feel moved by.
Mystic, to me, I would hope it would take us back to the day maybe when we first opened Pirates. It's old style Disney color, sound, lighting. It immerses you in a complete fantastic environment.
When we were approached by Danny Elfman and were told that he might be interested in doing this, to me that was one of the pivotal moments when I said this is going to go from something that can be really good to something great. Danny has the ability to create tension and excitement, but there's always a grin underlying it. So Danny was perfect.
When you think of Pirates of the Caribbean having its song, and Haunted Mansion having a song, and this, I can hum the melody now of Mystic Manor, and again, not seen it anywhere else. You didn't see it in the movie first. The first time you'll see it is in the park.
I think what makes me really excited to come to work every single day is the stories we tell, the technologies that we create are really meant to inspire. And again, I think Mystic is such a great example of that. Everybody cares really passionately about what they do, and it shows in a project like Mystic. It shows again in every single detail. I think that the guests see as they walk through the park. It really shows the amount of heart and soul that everybody on the team put into it. I think it makes you really proud. It's just that realization, we can't do this alone.
Okay, welcome to the stage. Hi, I'm Mark. And I'm Joe. So here we are. You saw a great intro video. I think it really told a great story about what it takes at Imagineering to do these projects, and so much of it about the people. Joe? I don't know if many of you know this, but I've been doing this for a little while now. And I've had the opportunity to kind of do a lot of neat stuff all around the world. And there's always a dynamic about a project that's hard to put into words. It's like, it's the people, it's the location, it's the subject matter you get to work with. But this, for me, has probably been one of the high points of my career, without a doubt, for a whole bunch of reasons. One, we got to create something totally unique. I didn't have to do a Pixar project or something based on feature animation. Those things are all great. That's wonderful that we have all that wonderful IP that we can go and mine to create projects, you know, like monsters, like Mark and I did in Tokyo together. But to have that opportunity, like the original Imagineers, to create something totally new and totally on every level. We created characters, we ride system. So that plus an amazing team and an amazing location and a great park, for me, has been one of the high points of my career.
Right, and I would just, you know, echo that. I mean, it probably is the ultimate thing for an Imagineer to get to do. Marty Sklar always refers to that blank sheet of paper, and we actually had that blank sheet of paper when we started this project. So with the image that you see behind us, this is actually opening day imagery from the park, and you can see how beautiful that is, and it really is kind of makes a statement, and really is kind of almost a second castle to Hong Kong Disneyland. So
let's talk a little bit about Hong Kong Disneyland first. First, show of hands, how many people have been there? People on my team don't count. Really? Okay, how many of you saw Mystic? Yay!
Yeah, all right.
Excellent, wow. So those of you not familiar with the park, I'll just quickly orient you. This is our park, sweet park, beautiful park. You heard Ethan at the top of that little film sing. It's probably one of the most beautiful settings, and it is absolutely. The park itself is, they called it Walt's Park because it's based on this park here in Anaheim in terms of its scale and its size, not like Walt Disney World or Tokyo or the other ones. So there's kind of a nice intimate scale to it. So when we set out to do this expansion, which is this area here, there were 3 parts to the expansion. We first opened Toy Story Land. Then we did a really cool, our version of a Western Land or a Frontier Land called Grizzly Gulch with a really neat roller coaster. But then kind of the crowning glory of the whole thing was Mystic Point, which you see right there. And then Mark, tell us, what's in Mystic Point?
What's in Mystic Point? That's a great segue to the next slide. So here's an overview, and actually, of course, Mystic Manor is the centerpiece to Mystic Point. Mystic Point's the overall estate of Lord Henry Mystic and his sidekick, Albert. In addition to that, we've got the Explorers Club. It's a 400-seat restaurant. It's a quick-serve restaurant, but we, again, with that blank sheet of paper, really got a chance to take it over the top, and there's some really fun individual rooms in there that, again, express this whole idea of world travel, world exploration at the turn of the century. It's kind of a setting of 1908 for us, and so we've got these great rooms that you can dine in. In addition to that, we've got the Garden of Wonders. The area development takes on this really kind of interesting sculpture garden piece where we've got anamorphic sculptures that you can interact with, and they're just great sculptural pieces on their own, but when viewed from key, unique spots, we actually set up oculus that you can look through. They take on a unique transformation where
Can you show pictures of those?
We are going to show pictures of that. Well, I guess I can show rounding out the rest of the land, we've got the freight depot. That's taking advantage of the railroad track that we had to work with that was surrounding the existing park. And of course, no Disney attraction or land would be complete without exiting through the gift shop. And of course, we have a special gift shop called the Archive Shop.
Let's see some pictures now, Mark.
So a lot of this, we're trying to overlay some of our concept art with the actual photographs of the finished product. So here you can see the concept sketch up in the upper upper corner, and we've got the entrance to the restaurant, and then a couple of the rooms that are showcased, the Egyptian room as well as the Chinese room, and you can see how different they are and really well appointed.
And you know, it's great working with our partners over there in Hong Kong Disneyland, operations, foods. You know, we build these things and we come up here and we take a bow, but it takes so many people to make these projects come to life. Besides the Imagineering teams and the construction teams, our on-site teams are great. And Mark was great. He went in and he gave them the story about Lord Henry and really got them into understanding the backstory of the whole thing. And then they take that and they run with it and have created some really great menus there. Kind of an international mix of food.
I mean, that really becomes our job. Once we kind of get this to the field position, the Imagineers that are on site in the field, it's really up to us to kind of take it to the next level and impart that story to the contractors, the construction workers, our partners like Joe said over there. And the greatest moment, and I can always tell on a project when you turn the corner, is when one of the contractors or one of the food and beverage people or merchandise people come up to you and say, you know what would be a great story ad? What if we could do this when we build that piece or we make this piece of merchandise? And I say, I know that we've turned the corner and it's always going to turn out to be great. So now you see what I was explaining about the Garden of Wonders. You can see the concept sketch with those anamorphic pieces. And then the three at the bottom actually showcase guests interacting with them. And when they do, and certainly from a photo op point of view, they really take on this really neat piece where we've got the Poseidon piece where it actually looks like the pieces are coming out of the water and the guests are standing on the columns. Or whether it's the Egyptian piece where that three-piece actually turns into one and you get this really neat sense of distance and scale with that piece.
So let me take this up and talk a little bit about visual communication here. And basically, it's a hallmark of what we do in Imagineering, because unlike a movie where we have a captive audience where they sit and you have a series of storytelling moments that you can introduce a character, you can introduce a place, whatever. Our job is really about figuring out what images, what items, what things we put to help create the bigger story context for the land. This is an important piece because before you even get into the attraction where you'll learn about Lord Henry and Albert and see their collection, we immediately wanted to start setting up this idea that he's traveled the world, he's found these incredible artifacts, but there's something a little mysterious about him. So this garden does a great job of showcasing not only what would be his artifacts, but there's a mystery there too. And then where did he drop them all off, Mark?
So the next piece is the freight depot, Mystic Point Freight Depot, and again, I was saying this is taking advantage of the existing asset of the railroad track running right through the edge of the land. We could not afford to, from a space perspective, actually have a drop-off and an entry to the train, but we wanted to expand the story, and we said, well, this is a perfect opportunity to kind of, under the guise of the railroad track, have the depot set up to be the offload of all of his artifacts coming from different parts of the world. And so they're in different parts of being unpacked and being ready to go onto the museum floor, but there's also some really great photo ops and you get a chance to interact with them. But the real big piece of the stage, or I'm sorry, of the depot is it's the entertainment venue for the land, and we have, I think 6 or 7 times a day they run a really fun show kind of showcasing artistry of costume and dance and different things from around the world.
So, Mark mentioned the photo ops. This is a culture in China that loves to take pictures. Everything is a photo op, so we took full advantage of that. Actually, it was for 2 reasons that we added lots of photo ops. 1, because they like to take photos, duh. 2 was this is accounting culture. In China, they're value-minded and they want to feel like they get a lot for the money. And that was actually one of the reasons behind us doing this expansion and doing 3 smaller lands with lots of things to do rather than trying to do one giant land like a Cars land or like the new Fantasyland in Walt Disney World. Interestingly, those both had the same price tag as our project, but we chose to do 3 smaller lands and 1 giant land. The reason being, the end result feels like there's a lot more there, because there are 3 different flavors, and we worked really hard to try to make each one very different stylistically, story-wise, and color palette-wise, landscape palette-wise from each other. So the end result feels like you get a lot. So you take a lot of pictures, and you feel like you go see a lot of different attractions. We got 5 attractions out of the expansion, plus restaurants, plus merchandise, plus a ton of things to take pictures of.
Yeah, it actually increased the park in size by about 25%.
It did, indeed. Let's keep moving here. Story overview. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the story and who this guy is. So let's start. Mark mentioned earlier on, and I mentioned, we got to create a brand new story. However, it has its genesis in actually some pre-existing Disney mythology. Those of you who have been, or used to be at Walt Disney World, the Adventurers Club. In fact, we might have even got these hats here, the Adventurers Club. That actually, thank you, Joe Rody, wherever you are, he's omnipotent, for coming up with that great concept. And then we kind of took that same idea in Tokyo when I was doing the Tower of Terror there, because they didn't know the whole Rod Sterling Twilight Zone thing. So we had to create a new story there. And we created this story about the Society of Adventurers and Explorers, and there was this lord, there was Harrison Hightower, who owned the hotel there, and he was a member of the society. Well, surprisingly enough, there was another member of this society, Lord Henry Mystic, the gentleman you see there, who has, but unlike the other characters in that society, that some of them had kind of shady backgrounds, Lord Henry here, he's an earnest guy, you know, he's part of the British upper class, well-educated, traveled the world, and along the way, met the Silver Monkey character. So we'll tell you more as we go along here. So how do we meet them, Mark?
Well, actually, in the pre-show, and we'll get to meeting in just a second, but this is actually some concept art and the model that we built for the pre-show, and then the actual footage from the pre-show itself. And we do have a treat for you. We're going to run actually the video footage of the pre-show and give you a chance to see how we actually, for the first time, meet Albert physically, as he's an audio animatronic figure that comes up, and then we can get into the specifics.
Let's go. Here we go.
Hello, can you hear me out there from back in the projection room? Oh, very well. Welcome to Mystic Manor, home to a world-class collection of art, antiquities, and my personal residence. I am Lord Henry Mystic. The young fellow at my side is Albert, my traveling companion, confidant, and rather mystic. Yes, Albert, that's you. Now run again. Well, for several years now, Albert and I have traveled the world in search of rare and precious artifacts for you to enjoy as you tour our home in Mystic Manor. These are just a few of our treasures. And here's our latest acquisition, an ancient music box. Legend has it that this charming music box has the power to bring inanimate objects to life with the touch of its enchanting music. Superstition and nonsense. Oh my. Well, we shall see when we open it, shall we? Albert, the little fellow can't keep his hands off that music box. Yes, you like that box, don't you? We'll examine it later. Now, shoot. Now, what was I saying? Oh, yes. Welcome, one and all, to Mystic Manor. A little quiet, little beggar. He's always
So with that pre-show, things that we wanted to communicate in there were really pretty straightforward. It was introduce Albert and certainly Lord Henry as he's voicing that over. And it was about the music box and the latest acquisition. It might have some interesting who knows what inside, and we just need to be careful about it. We really wanted to communicate about those two things.
So, as I said earlier, unlike in a movie, or when we base an attraction on a movie, our guests kind of come pre-wired with some emotional connection to the experience. They've seen the movie, they have the music from the movie, they know the characters from the movie all in their head. So our job really becomes more like finding those trigger moments. You know, what is that quintessential, okay, Winnie the Pooh ride, you're going to want to see Tigger dancing around, you're going to want to hear the Tigger song. So we just have to show that, and boom, it triggers in people's heads and there's this emotional connection. We were starting here with a blank sheet of paper, so it became important for us, and move to the next slide, Mark. It became important for us to start establishing who these characters were and how they got to know each other. So besides that pre-show film that you just saw, as you walk through the queue line, we started setting up, it's like a museum in his house. And it's Lord Henry showing kind of some of the photos of his travels and other members of his society. But we use this as an opportunity to start setting up, for example, as you see here, how Lord Henry first met Albert. And we chose to have him rescue Albert to, really create this bond that they love each other. It's really a father and son-like relationship. And of course, you can see the moment there when they bought their first Fez. And then, as I mentioned earlier, there is the Society of Adventurers and Explorers that they're a bigger part of, so we had to show them all off. And you know us Imagineers, we love to get into the act. This is actually Robert Coltrane, who's the brilliant concept designer who's actually very, very instrumental in coming up with some of the ideas for this attraction. But if you look here closely, this is Harrison Hightower, and if you look closely, that is Joe Rohde. If there's any resemblance to this guy and me, it's simply a coincidence. Mark Sherman, what are you doing there?
Yeah, I happened to be back there in 1982. Yeah. So, and one of the things we did too, I think, not having that kind of IP that we were relying on, we really went to this extreme of doing kind of character artwork. And backstory-wise, Lord Henry traveled with a sketch artist, and so we wanted to put these on display to kind of help tell the story of, how they met, where they traveled to, and really set you up as a kind of fun way to see into their world of travel. So you can see them here where they, the Monkey King from China, or the Egyptian mummy, the Viking ship. But of course, the key thing about what we wanted to kind of keep reminding the guests was all about the music box. And here, this is a great image done by Chris Turner. Actually, all of these were done by Chris Turner to kind of help us with that, was the turnover of the Balinese music box. And if you look at the gentleman holding the umbrella, he's actually really kind of fearful that he's even that close to the box. So they're happy to get rid of it.
So some subtle foreshadowing here. And just pictures of the actual queue as it looks.
So one of the things that was really integral to this attraction was the ride system, and certainly the ride vehicle. You may know it's a trackless system. We're actually got more than 200 RFID tags buried in the concrete floor that's helping guide the system. But it also is so interesting on how it's conveying the people through the attraction. We start out by dispatching 4 vehicles at a time, but then to help heighten the excitement, you actually go down to single file to 1 vehicle at a time, and then of course we'll group you back together at the end. But we wanted to really help tell the story up in the queue, where Lord Henry actually invented this. He's a bit of a tinkerer as well as kind of an explorer, and he invented the magneto-electric carriage that he took to the Paris Expo of 1900, and of course won the gold medal.
And, in our attractions, ride vehicles usually take on 2 roles. One, invisible, like the Haunted Mansion, the Doom buggies. They're really not part of the story. It's just a conveyance device that moves you through the house. And then in other attractions, Indiana Jones being a good example, or here, the ride vehicle is really part of the storytelling. And that's why Mark and the team worked so hard to create this gorgeous vehicle here. Beautiful design that looks like something from the period that Lord Henry worked on. Again, it's a device too, because it has the ability to start and stop, turn 360 degrees, go fast, go slow. It really becomes kind of our camera, in that we can tell people what we want them to look at and bring them into a scene, stop, turn them, point them at something, which allowed us to do really what Walt was trying to do with the original Haunted Mansion. That was create a large-scale magic show. We have some of the most amazing special effects in the show, probably, that we've ever done. And the only reason why we can pull them off, because most of them have kind of a setup, you play it out, it gets played off, and then you move on to the next scene, is because we have the ability now to, with this ride vehicle, to time out the whole experience to allow each thing to play through before moving on, where unlike rides like Pirates or the Haunted Mansion that I mentioned a moment ago, it has to be continuous. There's a cycle of things that just go and go and go, and hopefully you catch the right moment as you go through. Here, we're always guaranteed to hitting you right at the moment when we want you to see that particular thing.
Right, and we have a little video that, this is actually early on, about 8 months before opening, that shows a little bit of the action of the vehicle. Some of the tape lines you see on there, we're still actually tying in the floor to the show set, so you can imagine all of that being gone and really seeing that as a trackless vehicle. Pay no attention to the car covers that are in there. That was helping us protect while we were still building the show. So now really into the story beats.
Right, so each of the rooms, of course, are showcasing a different collection from Lord Henry's world travels. And we thought about the progression of the experience. We thought about what kinds of things would be interesting, knowing that the music box, which Albert, as you know, opens up and allows this magic music dust to come out and brings things to life. What would be interesting to see come to life, and then also thinking about how the experience would have a build to it from kind of benign to dangerous. Because it all starts out, it's a story of redemption, and it's a story of, at the end, we're all responsible for our actions. Because little Albert here, you know, he opens the music box, and then the consequences of his actions, of course, is that it starts bringing things to life. And some things coming to life are kind of cool, like musical instruments and statues and antiquities. But then when things like the armory come along and it starts getting dangerous, he realizes what he's unlocked and then has to redeem himself, as we'll see as we move through these scenes.
Yeah. So this first scene, the cataloging room, it's actually really a foreshadowing room. It sets up where Lord Henry's office is in the background, and that's where the first time we get to actually see Lord Henry. And he appears out from his office, kind of welcomes us, but of course reminds us that the music box is there. But he's very busy, and off he goes looking for Albert to get this kicked off. And as soon as he does, that's when Albert comes out and opens the music box. So the next scene is our music room, and music becomes a really important feature for us, and we wanted to showcase that as the first formal room of the museum. And I just ask you to look at all of these concept to actual finished pieces. One, how close they are to the original concept drawings. The concept drawings are probably about 6 years old, at least. And you know, how they kind of rang true to when we actually built the piece in place. So as you leave that first room, the music dust is actually alive, and this is one of the great special effects that we've got. The music dust actually is able to dance in and amongst all four vehicles, almost in theater in the half round, tracing and chasing us into this next room. We see it actually tag these different instruments, the harp, the harpsichord, and the Oaxacan organ that anchors the piece, the piece at the end. And Albert's actually inside of that, and when the music dust washes up over that, you see Albert pop up, and he just kind of is intrigued with it. And as Joe said, he's our kind of our eyes and ears to this. We're watching all of this happen with him, and he just is dancing along to the great music that Danny's scored for us. And it really becomes kind of this fun, very, you know, interesting and non-threatening scene.
So two really, really, really important things that make this show special, and were so key to the storytelling and the story we wanted to tell, and that was the music. We knew from the start that music wanted to be an important part of this. Again, going back to our heritage of great attractions like It's a Small World, Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean, all of them, and I bet you as I said those names, those songs popped into your head. Yo ho ho, it's a small, how many people curse us probably for that dang Small World song that sticks in your brain, but that's great because it becomes part of the experience. So we knew we wanted to have great music. And then this music dust was so important in terms of, it almost becomes like a character in how it has to come alive and bring the objects to life and such. So the the fact that we were able, and we'll talk more about this in a little while, able to get Danny Elfman, you guys know who that guy is, to do the music, and Danny will be talking to us via the screen in a little while, and then to really kind of crack the code on creating a new special effect that had never been done before for this music dust those were big moments, integral moments in making this happen.
So as we continue on, one of the things we also try to do is take advantage of scale. So that those first two rooms are almost 2 stories in kind of overall height. They're voluminous, and then we take you down into the Mediterranean Antiquities room, and it's more of a hallway. We bring the scale down and we start going single file, taking advantage of the ride system here. We've got some great artifacts that are enlivened as well by the music dust. We've got the Pompeii fresco piece. We've got Medusa that you see here. Just some really fun, and again, things that you just really want to stare and watch at over and over. They're non-threatening to you at this point.
Okay. So this scene we was talking is kind of the turning point in the attraction, because this is the first time that we, the audience, and little Albert realized that when things come to life, they're not always fun and fanciful and magical, that they can be dangerous. And here we have the fly trap gag where Albert's there is playing with one of the little baby fly traps, unaware of the fact that there's the big mama right behind him who snaps at his tail and then turns and snaps at us. And that's our first moment where we go, ooh, maybe this isn't all fun and games.
So as she does, what we do, just to heighten the tension a little bit, was a lightning strike, a thunderclap. We fade to black as she actually realizes that we're there too, and she comes out and wants to chomp on us a bit, and we get out just in the nick of time.
Now, up to this point, the ride vehicles have been, as Mark mentioned earlier, we dispatched in groups of 4. And then when they were going through that hallway that led up to the solarium where the fly trap was, they actually become kind of a daisy chain. Now they actually break off, and it's a single vehicle at a time. We had to build multiple rooms so we could keep the flow of the capacity. But we wanted moments where you're locked in a room, just you, single ride vehicle, and the set. And in this case, it's our Slavic Nordic room where this Norse god actually comes to life and freezes you. We drop, not freezes you, but
Get really cold.
That's the story. We drop a bunch of cold air on you, which causes the room to freeze over, which is a great black light and projected effect. And, I keep it away. Yes. And then the mirror cracks as a result of that. And we send you off to.
So this is the armory room. It's probably our biggest scene. It's right smack dab in the middle of the ride building. And it really does a lot of different things. I mean, it's threatening from the moment you get in there. You come right up close to the stage with the samurai warrior and little Albert hiding there. Basically, he's worried for his life because the samurai is actually engaging, trying to lop off his poor head. And he's playing hide and seek inside that cannon, making sure that he's safe. We come up almost within a few feet of the stage, and we're watching this trick take place. The cannon next to it actually starts to track us, and as we get closer, it locks in on us, and of course, shoots out a blast. Shoots out a cannon blast.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
Somebody's calling me. Hello? What? Okay, fine. All right, I forgive you, but just this once. All right, yeah, I'll meet you down in the WDI pavilion later. All right, thank you. Who's Lord Henry?
Lord Henry.
He said he decided to go listen to Lassiter and Iger. Whatever. Sorry.
Islam. Actually, I think I see Lord Henry over there. I'm not sure. Anyway. So it's really a threatening moment, and taking advantage again of this ride system, the trackless system, we actually get blasted and get sent into one of 2 directions where we either go by Trader Sam the Knight. So any of you familiar with Jungle Cruise, we've got Trader Sam the Knight here with his trophies in hand, or we go by the singing bus that are carrying on with Danny's tune, only to wind up in front of the crossbow that again starts to track us But of course, we get out in the nick of time.
So those are just two examples of a lot of little homages we've made through the whole attraction to other Disney attractions. We said Trader Sam, the singing bus, of course, are an homage to the singing bus in the other Haunted Mansion, and you'll see others as we move through it.
So into the Egyptian room, this is we start bringing vehicles back together. This is now 2 at a time, and we set up in front of this really great effect. It's actually a projection effect for the mummy, and the mummy actually comes to life, and bugs actually start to take over the room. With a little fade to black, imagine this whole room going to black and then feeling air and water and things dripping into your personal space. So that was one of the things from a special effect point of view. We wanted to kind of invade your personal space where we can with that 4th dimension of effects. And this is one of those examples.
Yeah. Tribal arts. So this is kind of a little homage to the Tiki Room, of course. Large scale, very large scale. How tall is the Tiki God, Mark?
The lava god in the center is probably 25, 28 feet tall.
Wow. And he's spewing out lava here, which is a great. We used a lot of projection in this show, but our goal from the start was that you would never know that there was projection. I said to the team, everybody now has high-def video in their pocket, you know, and there's video screens everywhere you go in the world. The supermarket, you pump gas, there's video. We're not fooling anybody when you can tell you that there's a screen, there's something projected on it, and there's like whole rides that other companies have done where you put on 3D glasses and you move through things, and it's all projected. I mean, they're cool, but it's not real. And I think what makes this ride so much more believable is that you don't have 3D glasses on, everything is dimensional and real, it's all environmental, and so wherever there was any kind of projected special effect, a lighting effect, whatever, we worked very hard to combine things. For example, here, there's projection, there's fog effects, there's black light painting effects, there's animation effects. And everywhere we could to blend things in such a way that the whole was greater than the sum of the parts it was made of, and it became one believable thing.
That's right. So tribal rooms actually set up into an A and a B, so you get this great effect with the Tiki God. He's kind of perched precariously there, lava spewing. Lasers actually shoot out of his eyes and send you spinning into the next portion of that room, where you are lined up with the little Tiki warriors. And of course, they're set up, but then all of a sudden they turn out with their weapons in place and start blowing air darts and arrows and all of that. And you can see what happens. We're actually going to let you see where those arrows go. We turn you 180 degrees to see poor little Albert stuck up against the wall. He couldn't get out in the nick of time. And he's pinned there with all the arrows and blow darts.
And I'll just say there were a lot of discussions about where to place that hat. The Chinese salon. So this is kind of our crowning achievement, probably one of the most complicated and impressive scenes we've ever done. Not we, I say in imaginary. In fact, when we first started the project, there was a different concept for this room, and we realized that it wasn't going to give us the effect we needed as a finale to like emotionally engage the guests, put them so into this world. And one of the great things about working for the Walt Disney Company, and I've seen this time and time again, that good is not good enough. And we were able to go back to our management, at the time it was Jay Rizzullo, and present to him what we were going to do, and then we had this alternative idea. I said, you know, it's going to make the difference between a ride that will leave people going, that was neat, with, oh my God, how did they do that? I'm exhilarated. And they said, you can go, and they actually gave us more money for it. But then with that challenge, we had to figure out how to do it.
How to deliver.
Because this scene, and I think we have some video later on, you'll see, this is kind of the crowning achievement of combining animated props, special effects, video projection. It's all there.
It is. It's the kitchen sink, but it actually does deliver, I think, at the end of the day. So this is really kind of the Chinese salon. The Monkey King is front and center, and it's basically the Monkey King is almost conducting the music dust, almost like the band leader with the music dust whipping around the room. And there's a point where the paintings actually start to dance and come alive. The panda in the painting actually travels across multiple paintings, landing in one on the other side of the room. And that's where you see Albert discovered behind her. He pokes out. The Monkey King takes his staff and throws the music dust at him. And as he gets out of the way just in time, the whole wall disappears.
The entire wall blows out.
Blows out. Like Joe said, we've got some video that we'd like to get to, so I'll save the rest of that for that moment.
If we don't speed up, we'll never get it.
That's right. So you can imagine, he has his opportunity to try to get the music box and close and stop the chaos, but of course the wind and everything and the music does too strong. He's whisked into this darkened scene where there's nothing but music dust kind of swirling around the room. You start to see a little bit of light come up, and you see the music box has landed onto this platform, and little Albert's there, ready to make his final attempt to close the box. And sure enough, he does. And as he does, the music dust miraculously comes together over the box. And again, we're all gathered with 4 vehicles around us, and it comes back in, the box closes, the house lights come up, revealing that you're actually in the same scene that you started in, the cataloging and acquisition room.
There you go. So we actually, it's bookended, and the 2 scenes are identical in every prop, the placement of all the props.
But one.
What?
But one prop.
But one, which is the music box, which of course is now all askew because it's just flown in from the previous scene. And of course, poor Albert, who has now gone through quite an experience. As you can see here, it looks pretty tattered up, but you can't see it yet. There's a little gag too that is. For those who are looking closely, his fez in the previous scene, there was a sword that captures his fez and goes flying out, so the fez is actually embedded in the wall next to him. But worry not, no monkeys were hurt in the production, as you can see.
That's right. So those are the big story beats on that. Anyone that was at D23 a few years back, you may have seen a lot of that stuff. That's how it's come to fruition. Now we want to take a deeper dive and kind of unveil some of the things and our production methods going through that. So just to start with the Manor itself, obviously we do these kind of beautiful renderings, and we actually have to get down to details. And you see the actual CAD drawing that was done by the architects, the color board in the center that was done, and of course the Manor that is there today.
Right. So I'm going to do a couple shout outs, one here and then on the next slide. Do first shout out, the color design on these attractions is always integral in telling the story, and then carrying that color design into the field is always a job. And Mark and I have a wonderful colorist that we've worked with on a bunch of these projects, who I think is here, Monica. Just raise your hand when I shout out to Monica. And then the next slide. This is the development of Albert, which is from the hands of the very, very talented Ethan Reed, who you saw talking earlier. Ethan, shout out to Ethan. There's Ethan again. Mark and I sit up here and we take the bow for doing this, but you know, it's an amazing team of people, the best artists in the world, the best designers in the world, the best sculptors in the world. You know, Imagineering is blessed with so many incredibly talented people. We all stand on the shoulders of giants, and we've got some great. In fact, if there's any other team members here I can't see, please raise your hand so I can see who you are and give a shout out to you. Oh, way back there. I don't know who you are, but you did a great job. Okay.
Anyway, so you can tell from that we actually started out with a more realistic stylization of Albert, and really said, let's go back to our dark ride roots, our Disney roots, and really wanted to kind of push Albert and make him the cute, lovable character that everybody's going to identify with. And this is an example of some new technology for us doing figure design. Albert was actually done all in the computer. You can see some of the guys at Steve Petronio, they are working on him. He's one of our great sculptors as well, but now he's really learning the program on doing it there. And you can see actually the little white maquettes are the ones who got right here in the front.
These were not sculpted by human hands. These were taken from the computer and then grown. We have a 3D printer that grew these up. And for us, this was great because we originally had budgeted to do the attraction the traditional way, and I think we only had enough money to do one face. And as Mark said earlier, we wanted to use his emotions, his expressions to tell you how you're supposed to feel. He's afraid, he's inquisitive, he's in danger. So we were able to do that now with this process because we didn't have to, keep sculpting faces and a new one each time. The computer just spit them out after we would work through the design with Ethan and the team to get it just how we wanted.
And with that, you can see how he actually turned out. And this was the interesting thing. We have one scene, our big finale scene, is CG generated. We had to have Albert really look like he was connected and was the same Albert that you saw as the AA figure. And I think we were able to accomplish that. Then moving on to Lord Henry, because Lord Henry actually only appears twice, and he's basically in the same kind of pose coming out of his office door for both, we actually did a more traditional foam sculpt, full-size foam sculpt that was then turned into a fiberglass piece that we traditionally do. This just is an example of the concept to the figure animation sheet to the actual piece. And this is a little look behind the scenes where no one else is going to get this view. This was in our factory in China where we did both Henrys together, and because we were working on them simultaneously, you get to see both Henrys.
Albert, get away from that box. What have you been up to? You didn't touch that music box, did you?
Kind of fun, but a little strange.
Yeah. Just a quick comment about the design of the characters. As Mark mentioned earlier, Albert was originally, actually both Albert and Lord Henry were going to be more realistic looking. And I started thinking about the fact that we're Disney, and the one thing that makes our characters, and I have an animation background, so I think about these kinds of things, the expressiveness of an animation character, giving them big eyes, giving them exaggerated features, and the early Imagineers knew this well, Mark Davis and Blaine Gibson, when they created all the characters for the Haunted Mansion or Pirates, they're not real people. I mean, the proportions are all exaggerated, eyes are bigger, limbs are exaggerated, and all that's for an easy read. You got to be, in our attractions, you just have seconds to tell people what they're supposed to be feeling about this character. So, big eyes on the monkey, very, very expressive, you get it. Lord Henry, the gangly features on him, plus it's a stereotype too, and people react to stereotypes, and it's all about that quick read and being able to communicate as fast as you can when, especially with characters that our guests are not familiar with.
That's right. I mean, this ride is only 5 minutes long, and we've got so much story to tell that these guys have to be recognizable immediately.
So this is the layout of the building, and I won't go too much into it. Mostly just how compact it was for a ride that's 5 minutes long. We didn't use up a lot of square meters here. That's because, as I mentioned earlier, the ride vehicles were able to start and stop as they moved through each of the rooms. So we did this this animatic here. Actually, it's very complicated. What you're seeing down the bottom is the floor plan here. It's big. Okay, that's the actual floor plan. These are the ride vehicles. And what this allowed us to do was understand where each ride vehicle was going to be, how long they were going to be in each room, and then we had CG renders of each of the viewpoint from each of these ride vehicles, so we could see what each of the vehicles we're going to see, and then on some occasions we were able to drop in some of the special effects as well. This became the tool that we gave to Danny Elfman when he was composing the music, because unlike a movie, he actually had to kind of work a little ahead of the process, and really the whole movie's done, then he composes to it. Of course, the ride wouldn't be complete. We couldn't wait till the ride was complete for him to compose it. Plus, the timing of each of these scenes was so critical that we needed this device to help him understand what we wanted. And then this became a fantastic tool for us to understand what each vehicle was going to see, knowing that the 4 vehicles were going to be in different places, seeing different things, but we still wanted to create an experience where there was some parity in it, that everybody kind of got the same level of experience.
I'm sorry, I was a little quick on the trigger.
We're going to see Danny?
Yeah.
I grew up in Los Angeles, so going to Disneyland was kind of a constant and regular thing for me growing up, being that I was lucky enough to just be a few hours away. And the Haunted Mansion in particular was something that I really had a tremendous affinity for. So when the opportunity to do Mystic Manor came up, I was very enthusiastic. I wanted to keep as much connection as possible, so even though the actual melody is not similar to the Haunted Mansion, the inspiration is definitely connected to that. I always remember going around that corner in the Haunted Mansion and those faces singing lyrics to the tune. And I loved that moment, so I really wanted there to be a similar moment in Mystic Manor, where you're coming around these animated suits of armor and they're in fact singing. Of course, the difference is they will be singing in 3 languages. We really decided that we should make this ride appealing to anybody from any culture, from anywhere in the world. So there's moments where with various instrumentation and orchestration, where I made homage to bits of Chinese music in specific, but overall, the feeling is that any human from anywhere on the planet should be able to come in here and enjoy it. My hope, as somebody goes through Mystic Manor, is they will simply feel a sense of joy, that it's like fun, a joyful experience that they'll repeat many times, like I did with the Haunted Mansion, and that there will be some generation of kids growing up to adults that will have the tune to Mystic Manor as just part of their, in their minds.
So we have to thank D23 for bringing us Danny Elfman, because when Mark was here how many years ago?
It was the very first D23.
And we had a little setup talking about the expansion for Hong Kong Park. Just so happened that Danny Elfman's manager, who's this crazy guy in the name of Richard Kraft, who loves theme parks and loves Disney, was here and saw what we were going to do and said, this would be great for Danny. And it just so happened Danny was at a point in his career where he wanted to stretch out and do different things. He did the show with Cirque du Soleil, he's done an opera, and he just saw this as a great opportunity. So imagine how thrilled we were when Danny Elfman comes knocking on our door.
We said, score.
And he was an absolute joy to work with. And he just nailed it, first time out.
Yeah.
It's like Mark and I, you always, in the past we've had experience where you hear that first music track, or you might see the first of anything, and go, it's not there, or but I mean, he hit it out of the park from the very start.
Yeah. And what was really nice is he didn't phone it in. He was really engaged in the process for the 2.5 years that we were working with him. He actually came to the site actually a couple times, and as well as his arranger, and literally we had lunch sitting on the floor in different scenes. We would travel in each scene, and he would sit purposely on the floor in the center of each scene to make sure that all the sounds and everything were kind of coming.
That was an entire week. He spent an entire week with us every day, sitting in every scene.
Okay. We were a little starstruck, I think.
We better pick up.
So I'll run through these fast, but it's kind of scene by scene, kind of showcasing certain pieces as it went through the production process. So here, the one piece before you head out is this Chinese dragon that actually comes to life. It actually rotates up and moves, and you can see it in its sculpted fiberglass and then finished state.
The beautiful Oaxacan organ. I love to say that. Oaxacan organ.
And this was truly an international project. I mean, between the ride vehicle being done in Detroit, this piece was one example of pieces done out in San Bernardino. We had things done in China. Just really beautiful integrated pieces that had to work with the figures as well. just this kind of really fun piece, and this is one of the examples, one of the tools. This next slide is how we actually developed the gag for this video projection piece, which is the Mount Vesuvius erupting. Right, save that wine. And these were some really fun early sketches. You see the model, you can see the technology that we did in programming. And here's a fun piece where we've got Herc and the lion kind of dueling battle.
And another example here, again, this, is it going to run there?
Yes.
Okay, right. Where we wanted to blur the line between the projection, so we did a few things. We moved the vase, it was internally projected, but then we wanted a moment that kind of broke through that projected wall, and we added a dimensional filter dash, as you can see here. As the bird jumps, so it makes people go, wait, was that projected?
So imagine that projection and the vase itself is actually spinning as it's about to fall over. So these were great tools for us, and we did the same here with the Medusa piece, and as Joe mentioned earlier, this was a black light to white light effect that really kind of, you know, I think surprised even us. I mean, we knew it was going to work, but it really was a cool piece.
So it's a combination black light to white light plus a practical effect. Again, always trying to blend things so that the whole was greater than some of the parts and you didn't realize it. Right. It's just, you know, turning on and off some lights.
So here's our turning point scene, and again, the sketches, the model, you know, the beautiful, you know, Albert sitting there, this great show set. And this is an example. You see all these things, you see these figures, and certainly these kind of, you know, non-human-like figures that actually, when they're coming to life, they stop being machines and start being their kind of organic. This was in China, and with our animation vendor that did a really good job in making him move so smooth and so quickly for us.
This is the Slavic Nordic chamber. Those are some great Ethan Reed sketches. But I think the little video here will explain how. And so while all that's happening, we're dumping cold air on your head.
Into the arms and armory room, you can see we're obviously, you know, focusing on Albert and his distress in the cannon. And this is just an example of one of the mock-ups we did to understand how much pressure, how much smoke, all of that was going to come out of that cannon.
And by the way, I had to be on the receiving end of that first one.
That's right. It was on pretty high, I think. So, and this is just an example of our large room in the armory room. We did all of the sculpting. There is no real stone, no real wood or metal in this. It was all done by foam and fiberglass, and you can see that bottom piece, how gorgeous with you overlay the show lighting on that. All of that comes together at the end.
And then our fun Egyptian scene, the concept sketch, the model, and now here's a little video.
So here's the construction and the process for the large tiki god. And early sketches and the positioning in the field of all the totems, the tikis, and of course Albert, sketches to reality there. The Chinese salon with the Monkey King again front center, and this was a concept of how distressed do we want Albert to be.
And there was a lot of discussion. Should we char him? I mean, should the arrow still be in his head? So, where did that hatchet end up?
Right. So the next two are video clips. One is the animatic that we did to actually help design this and sell this to
this management. Right.
And then the one following it is an actual video clip of the scene as it is today. And you can see how close they are.
So this is the CG animatic that we did. See the entire wall blew out there.
We're using 4K projectors that were not even on the market when we were designing this, and to really give you that 3D effect. And now here it is as filmed from the actual attraction. You're leaving the lava scene of the TV box. It's his chance to close and stop the chaos. And we'll continue on into the next scene to finish this out for you.
You get a good view of the music dust here, how amazing that special effect is.
It truly looks like it's in the middle of the room, not just projected on a wall.
Manor here today. Fortunately, it's way on the other side of the ocean. Maybe you'll get a chance to go.
And we'll end this, to take it full circle, this is the commercial that ran in Hong Kong.
TV commercial.
Getting ready to open the attraction.